Welcome. My name's Rod Horrocks. I am the G1st LEP's Project Manager for the Hub Mentoring Scheme. This is the introduction to the third of the webinars covering moving online. This webinar covers the subject of social media, a huge impact during the pandemic if used properly, and certainly we need three subjects that we're going to tackle today will be important for you to understand. The first one is content, creating the right content to project your brand image and what you want to say to your customers. Second one is how do you understand the information around what the social media impact is having on things like sentiment and people coming to your website and buying things from you. And lastly, we talk about somebody who has actually done this within that sphere and completely added another string to her capability within the business. So we hear first of all from Caroline McShane, owner of Social Honeycomb, who talks about content for Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. We have followed that with Emerson Osmond from Maybe, a platform that analyzes your social media interactions and provides information which says whether the stories and the information you're putting out is actually increasing your presence and your brand awareness. And lastly, we hear from Sophie Scarrett from Keith Scarrett Shoes, who talks about how she's done this during the pandemic, generated a brand new set of customers, and also been able to design a new range for sale online. Please enjoy.
Thank you very much, Rod. Hello, everybody. I can see there are some names on the list that I already recognise and an awful lot that I don't. But yes, I'm Caroline McShane and I run a social media agency called Social Honeycomb. I'm based in Gloucestershire. I'm actually based out of the Cirencester Growth Hub where I have received phenomenal support from them. But I have clients and work with businesses all around the world before the pandemic started. But as the pandemic has proven, it has just opened up borders, and I think we can now pretty much trade and do video conferences and workshops and things like that with a totally international audience, which is one of the positives I believe that has come out of this. So we help businesses and individuals to grow their social media confidence. And as Rod mentioned, we work predominantly from a strategy perspective with sports, health and wellbeing businesses, but from a platform training and learning perspective, we work with people from all types of businesses, whether it's your own personal social media or that of a company or your own company. And I have seen some really, really fascinating things that have happened as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. At the beginning, I noticed that from a purely personal perspective, with regards to my own clients, as soon as lockdown happened, it was immediately, right, put the brakes on everything, we're not going forward. It's a case of we've got to make sure our company survives, which is totally and utterly understandable. Now, a number of those businesses then continued to mothball, and I've noticed that an awful lot of businesses haven't really reappeared. I have either furloughed their staff, which is understandable, but the marketing side of things really does need to still continue. And a really interesting fact that I came across the other day was that whilst there are more people on social media now, and the average amount of time that we're spending on social media has quite dramatically increased, there are a lot fewer businesses on social media and a lot fewer businesses putting out content. So actually now is the perfect time if you're thinking about moving your business online and looking at upping your social media or even starting social media. Now is the perfect time to be out there because there are more people for you to engage with and there is less competition for you to compete with. So I think once the pandemic kicked in and lockdown kicked in, those businesses that weren't mothballing all marketing strategies were looking at redeveloping their strategy, because a lot of people set their strategy to move forward, which is a brilliant way of doing your social media, because you're planning ahead, you're looking at key dates that are key to your business, your industry, you're coming up with your ideas so that you're actually saving yourself time in the future. You're not sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to post today? You know what it is, you've got a plan, it's all been put through the rigorous processes. But a lot of businesses obviously had quite a sales-focused strategy. They were very much promoting what they were doing. And overnight that had to change. And the way we spoke to people via social media had to be a much more sympathetic way. It had to be a much more understanding view, and changing the conversations that we were having with people. You know, take for example some of the big retailers who can no longer sell through their stores. They suddenly had nothing to talk about. They couldn't be talking about the new fashions that were coming through. They couldn't be talking about what was going on. But what they were doing was looking at highlighting what was going on in the NHS, highlighting what was going on in communities, and that way keeping their audience growing and possibly attracting a totally new audience, so that when those doors finally open, those audiences will be much more likely to go straight back to that company. So it really is about looking at your messaging, about taking that messaging online, and you can reach so many more people and so many more specific people and audiences once you have identified exactly who it is that you want to target. Now, to give you an example of when this had happened, I was working with an Italian vineyard, obviously not based in the UK, but they were desperately trying to get into the UK market. They had a UK sales guy who had been working for them for a number of years, and in came me as a freelance social media person to help them sort out their strategy and also help them get in front of the right people. And those people were specifically wine buyers, but also journalists. I had a very interesting first conversation with the sales guy who, as far as he was concerned, social media was a total and utter waste of time. He was a salesman. He knocked on people's doors. He knew the industry. He was going to get this vineyard out there, and that was fine. So we went our separate ways. And to cut a very long story short, via the use of Twitter and LinkedIn, but predominantly Twitter, and through a planned campaign, I identified a number of individuals who were very key journalists and high-profile journalists. And through starting very loose conversations, very, just like you would if you walk into a pub, you meet somebody the first time, you say hello. The next time you go in, you have a bit more of a chat. The next time you go in, you maybe buy them a drink. That type of thing. We started to build a relationship with 3 key individuals. To cut my story short, it ended up with me being able to get these individuals to the tasting table to taste the wine that the journalist had never ever managed to do. They wrote some amazing articles about this wine, and the vineyard sold out of one particular type of wine for vintage from that year, which nobody had ever been able to do. And that really does show the power of social media. I didn't have to fly all around the world to see people. I didn't have to go and spend hours walking the streets or go up to London or anything like that. I literally did it all from my office at home. So for being able to reach those types of people is a phenomenal thing to be able to do. There is also a company that I'm working with at the moment who is a global events company, and they did obviously face-to-face types of things and got large conferences together. But through their social media, they are now moving things across to an online offering. And not only have they had the support from their existing clients, but they're also attracting a whole stream of new clients that are coming through. Their LinkedIn numbers, we've had something like 500% more engagement on the posts, because we're now talking to a much wider audience. We've got people who are really interested in what we're talking about. And therefore, having gone from having their head in their hands and desperate because the event industry has been absolutely decimated, they now actually have a bit of positivity that there may well be something coming through from the future that will help them and move. But you need to be able to change, and you need to be happy to move forward and move online. So, I think really all that is sort of left for me to say really is that social media is not something to be scared of. Yes, there are platforms, yes, there are processes that need to be learned, which can be done very easily through training and advice and help. But it is about the conversations, it is about communicating, and it is about putting yourself out there as a business, but also as the individual. People are buying from people. They want to know your story behind your business, and they want to know why they should be a part of it. And by creating a really good community that will support your business, you don't have to have tens of thousands of followers or hundreds of thousands of followers. You just need a good core of individuals or businesses that will help you, support you, share their experiences with you, and help share your word to others, and thus increasing your awareness, and therefore bringing more much more traffic to your website, which is then for you to convert. So I'm a massive, passionate believer in social media. I've used it for many years. I've used it in different businesses before I sort of focus purely on social media. And I really do think that if you are thinking about taking your business online, now is the perfect time to do it. And with social media, and especially what the guys are going to be talking about when I've finished, they will be able to prove to you that there is great data and great metrics and some great case studies out there to prove that it is a really worthwhile thing to do and not something to be scared of. So that's from me.
Caroline, thank you very, very much. Super, really impassioned, which is nice. That's what we like to see all the time. And yeah, lots and lots of good messages out there. So fantastic. Thank you very much. Sophie, I think you're up next, my dear.
Okay. Hi, hello everyone. I've already been obviously introduced. I'm Sophie. I own Key Scout Shoes, which is a ladies' independent footwear boutique on the promenade in Cheltenham. We've been trading for 45 years this year, so you know we should be celebrating that, but it's a bit of a, I don't know, difficult time to maybe using the word celebrate. But anyway, so I just wanted to go through what we've done since sort of March 15th, when the sort of I think that was race week, wasn't it, in Cheltenham? So that was a very quiet week anyway, because everyone's racing. But from then on, it was very obvious, you know, what was happening. The following week, footfall was very, very low in the shops, and then I think by that weekend, most shops had closed before obviously Boris's announcement, sort of saying we had to. So from I think Saturday 21st of March was our last day of trading. And then obviously on that Monday, that was it. And I think like anyone, especially, you know, business owners, it was like, you know, what do we do? You know, suddenly all our income's been removed. We've got huge bills. We've got staff to pay, you know, everything. It's the same thing, you know. I didn't have any more issues than anyone else, but we were all the same worries. And it was terrifying, wasn't it? You know, what do we do? Obviously, this was before the announcements from the chancellors, you know, the chancellor about what they're going to do with furloughing and all the help which has now become available. So that time was real panic for everybody. So I kind of sat back and thought, well, what do we do? You know, how do I feel about it? And to be honest, I made the decision to switch everything off. You know, everything that we do digitally, turned it off. So our, you know, all our sort of sales emails, our sales ads, our retargeting, that kind of thing. That first week, it just didn't sit right with me. So I don't know whether ethically or morally. You know, I was getting emails from big companies saying, hey, buy these shoes, buy these trainers, buy this, buy that. I was like, hang a minute. I don't even know if I'm going to have a job or any money tomorrow. It just didn't feel right. You know, that was my opinion. We're all entitled to our own opinions and how we feel about it, but that's how we felt about it, and you know, as part of the business as well. So we switched everything off, but what we kept doing, and we really kind of ramped up, was supporting other people and localized stuff. You know, as Caroline was saying, so important to keep talking to your audience. You know, hey, we're still here. We know we might not be selling you shoes, but and communicating with other businesses. You know, so we did lots of localized stuff to Cheltenham. Sort of engage with other businesses. You know, did our top 5 favorite florists, or top 5 cafes, restaurants, that kind of thing. And then also talked about our story, you know, so it was a good time to, as I said, we should be celebrating 45 years. It's a good time to go back, maybe look through the archives, did our staff favourite picks from the last 10 years, your favourite boot, your favourite shoe, staff stories, that kind of thing. And it just gave it a really sort of quite nostalgic thing, but it kept Key Scout as a business in everyone's minds, but we weren't then trying to sell you things like that, you know. I just didn't feel right doing that. But as Caroline says, it's really important to keep talking and, you know, keep engaging with everyone and keep telling your story. Then over the next 2 sort of 3 weeks, I think everyone sort of adjusted to time and lockdown. The government obviously then came out and have been, you know, for particularly businesses like me, I think I've ticked quite a lot of the boxes. We've been helped very nicely. They've been very fair with us. About, you know, what are we going to do? We can't disappear. You know, Caroline said it's the last thing you want to do. So then we very, very slowly sort of looked at things and thought, well, I don't want to aggressively go down a sales line, but we just turned things back on very, very slowly. We changed all our website over into spring, summer, so it all looked very beautiful, all very bright, all very positive. And then emailed out to everyone explaining what we're doing. You know, obviously we can't sell through the shop, but we're here online. Things are going to be slightly different. We're probably only going to be posting things out twice a week, but we just told our story, made it very human. You know, even to the point that, you know, my staff are furloughed, so it'll probably be me packing things up and wrapping them up, and I've got fat podgy fingers and it's not going to look as nice as it normally does, you know, so just make it very human. And then people email back and say, oh Sophie, I'm really looking forward to seeing your scruffy wrapping up and things like that. And again, it's engaging and chatting with people. So we did that for a couple of weeks, but in the meantime worked very, very hard behind the scenes, so that we don't want people to, just because you're not working in the shop and you're doing everything from home, we didn't want to drop our standards. We wanted everything to be as beautiful, as nice as it normally looks. So we did lots of fantastic photography shoots from home. And we noticed and realised that obviously with lots of big magazines off on furlough, their staff furlough, they can't produce photography and stuff. So it's a really good opportunity if you're a retailer, go out, take some fantastic shots. We did some on an iPhone and some on I'm lucky, one of the girls that works on the digital side of stuff is really good. So we submitted all these to magazines. I mean, we got in OK magazine because of it. Just little things like that you could now do and have got the time to do. So we worked really, really hard behind the scenes, got the website looking fantastic, did this big email explaining what we're going to do, and then just slowly turn things on again. And then through the Maybe platform, which Emerson will obviously tell you a bit more about, we could really see our audience and realise the people out there at the moment were probably the mums at home, homeschooling, pulling their hair out by now, on, you know, their third gin by 11 o'clock or whatever the rules were. And I don't think for them, you know, they're not going to want to spend £300-400 on a, you know, big purchase like a handmade Italian pair of boots. However, on a Friday, they're looking to reward themselves. So perhaps £50 pair of trainers, that kind of thing. And we were able to realise that this audience, from using the platform, that it's a probably slightly younger audience than our usual audience, but they're the ones that are there, sat active. So we launched, we would have had these trainers anyway, but we launched them this time, we brought it forward and launched that as a new range, and it went phenomenally well. So good. I mean, as you said, Emerson will be able to show you the graphs and stuff, how this peaked. And then because of that, we suddenly had this slightly younger audience than we normally have. So I thought, well, whilst they're there, we need to keep talking to them, to keep engaging with them. So we realised, as you said, most of them were mums there doing their homeschooling with 2 young children. It was then Easter as well. So we launched a colouring competition. I took my 4 favourite designs, a boot, a shoe, a trainer, and a sandal, and did the outline of it, and launched a competition. So we pushed that out through our email and our social channels, and they had to just we put a link to a Dropbox on it. They downloaded the 4 pictures and could colour them in, put glitter, lace, whatever you want, just go crazy. And that was fantastic. It really, really got everyone talking about us, talking about our brand. It was picked up again in the media, which is great. You know, keep Keith Scarrett, the word about Keith Scarrett going all the time. I think we did 1 Facebook post of that, an organic post. It had a reach of over 8,000, which is phenomenal, you know, just for colouring competition. And again, obviously off the back of that, because that slightly younger mum audience was there, it kept this trainer sales going and going and going, which has been really good. But I then thought, well, hang on a minute, I don't want to ostracize my main core client. I don't want them thinking, oh, suddenly Sophie's just selling £50 cheaper trainers to a very, very young audience. So we made sure we readdressed those as well, went back and emailed out to all those people and put out a big campaign about some beautiful handmade shoes that we do every year. They're part of the Keith Scarrett Core collection. So again, it kept that audience sort of entertained, and off the back of that, we had really, really good sales there as well. We then also launched another thing, because I said we're 45 years old, anniversary this year. That's quite an easy thing to get engagement from. And, you know, we're always looking for content, you know, you're kind of scratching your head every day. Oh, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do for content? So we just said to everyone, look, you know, some of you have been clients for 4 years, 5 years, 45 days, and some of you are 45 years. If you have any pictures of shoes from us, it'd be really good if they could be dated. You know, if perhaps you went to your, I know you got married in a pair in 1992, you know, send them in, and everyone that sent them in got a voucher as well. So again, it was a really nice kind of well-being, you know, just really nice feeling. Great for heritage, and it got people involved and talking about it. So we had so many emails saying, oh my goodness, you know, I bought these shoes in 1982 and here's a picture of this and here's me doing this. It was just really, really good. And again, provided us loads and loads of content. But again, just talking to our audience and then talking back and, you know, the growing engagement. We then realised, you know, things are okay, not okay, but things have improved, haven't they? You know, everyone kind of knows where they are. So then we gently turned things back on, re-advertising, retargeting and stuff. And over that space of time, I think Emerson will show you, it's been phenomenal, been really, 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 really good. I didn't, you know, as I said, when this first happened, I was absolutely terrified. But from what Caroline spoke about and said, you know, by engaging with people, by keep talking, by putting your message out there, what you do it really, really nicely. It's been phenomenal for us. We also done sort of lots of other bits and bobs that I think would be useful for other people, you know, things like your, you know, do sort of like we've done like an MOT of our website, of our social media. Now's the time to do it, isn't it? So, you know, make sure like GMB stuff was up to date. All our messaging on our Twitter, on our Instagram, you know, say, hi, you know, due to the current situation, we're not trading through the shop, but please come and visit us online, and keep up to date with it. You know, there's nothing worse than going on a website or someone's social media and it's still got an Easter bunny on it or race week because that's the last time they went in the shop or something. We've done, I mean, other things that I think we tried to do and have done is also look for other platforms to put your stuff on. There's so many other things, you know, you obviously got your website and or your social media, but there's, for retail in particular, you know, you can go on ASOS Marketplace, whether it's Truva, Atelier, Farfetch, eBay, Amazon, there's loads of other things. So you can put your products there to another audience, not just your website. That's been really, really useful for us too. But the biggest change, I think, in the last week or two, which has really, really helped, is obviously since the announcements last week where things have been slightly lifted, our shop's at the bottom of the promenade in Cheltenham, and I live at this sort of other end of town. So I walk down the prom, and I think, as most people know, most high streets look pretty terrible at the moment. You know, pre-COVID, there was empty shops everywhere, but now, you know, when it first happened, so many of these shops emptied out, didn't they? You know, took every item of clothing out, emptied the windows out, and I understand what their reasons for doing it. But now, 8 weeks later, it just looks so sad and so tired. And they've got posters that they put up saying, you know, we're terribly sorry, you know, with a heavy heart, we're closing the store for your safety. Well, that's gone. It's outdated. Those posters all wrinkled up. They look terrible, you know. I thought, oh God, you know, I don't want my shop looking like that. So we have put in, as of 2-3 weeks ago, our beautiful full window full of bright colours, you know, really, really, really eye-catching shoes. And now there is more footfall in the town because there's no other shops or anything in. My window's almost become like a TV screen. People are looking in all the time. So we printed out some beautiful posters with shoes on saying, you know, please shop online at Keith Scarrett, because I underestimated, I didn't realise how many people didn't know we have a website. It astounded me. I just assumed, you know, it's all over our paperwork, our receipts, our carrier bags, cards, everything, but so many people didn't realise. So they've been standing in the window and looking and pointing and making all these noises. And I thought, right, you know, that's normally we do so much work through our social to drive people to the shop. And now I'm almost doing the opposite. I've got signs up with a website on saying shop on our website here. They can look in the window. So off the back of that, people were sort of saying, oh, how can I buy them? I was like, off the website. But then when things were eased, as I said last Wednesday, we decided to bring in the click and collect. And we we thought about it earlier, but then, you know, do you want to encourage people in the towns when they shouldn't be and that kind of thing? We do free postage anyway, but that's been, since last Wednesday we launched that, that's been absolutely fantastic. A lot of people, as Caroline said, people buy from people. So they like the fact that they're actually going to see me or something, one person from the shop. Even that kind of a wave or a thumbs up or hello makes such a difference. And then they've gone back and said, oh, I've told my sister I've done this and she's going to do it. Or I've told my mum she can buy from you and she can come and collect it. And then the other thing I've done is when I've gone down every day to wrap up all the web sales, instead of doing them upstairs in my office, I've brought everything down and sat on the shop floor. So every single person that looks in the window, I just wave to or say, hi, thumbs up. It's the same as going on Facebook or Instagram and just liking posts, isn't it, you know? But as you say, people buy from people. People, a lot of my ladies in particular, if they're sort of elderly or haven't been out for the last 6-8 weeks, that little bit of connection, and then they say, oh, you're there. How can I support you? And I sort of say, buy, you can buy online, you know? And that human interaction is really, 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 really helped us. As you said, just make it, you know, talking to people, is how, you know, just don't let them forget about you. And as I said, they talk, you know, audience through Facebook and Instagram has been brilliant, and emailing. But now, as I say, waving from the window has been really, really, really good. Emerson, are you going to take over now and go through some of the stats that should hopefully tally up some of the things we've done?
Just before you do that, Sophie, thank you very, very much. Very inspiring, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Emerson, over to you.
Thanks, Rob. Morning, everybody. Hope everybody's well, safe at home. So yeah, thanks to Caroline and thanks to Sophie. My name's Emerson. I am the co-founder of a platform called Maybe Tech. And I've been in social media since probably social media wasn't really a thing. It was about 2003 I started dipping my toe into that world, and somebody called Mark Zuckerberg wasn't really known at that point, to be honest. So I've seen a lot of changes in that time. I've seen people be very fearful of social media. In my experience of the early days were, what people talk about me online? That's pretty scary. I don't want them doing that. I don't want anyone talking about me online. Thank you very much. All the way through to now, where, and I'm not sure whether or not, Caroline, you found this over the last few years. Social media was designed to be a two-way conversation, and it's become a broadcast channel. It's become a place where brands just shout, buy me, buy everything. It's as if you walked into Sophie's shop and Sophie walked out the back door as soon as you walked in the front door. Nobody's having that two-way conversation with you anymore. It's really quite strange and really quite tragic. And in a funny kind of way, as awful as the situation we're in right now, it's reset the mindset of how brands need to actually operate online. And the ones that are going to win out of this are the ones that will put in place the strategies that Caroline's already talked about and Sophie's kind of highlighted from the local perspective. The ones that actually properly engage and understand who their audience are and where they are. I've got some data slides that I would like to walk you through. It's based on some of the research that Maybe has done themselves, plus a look at Sophie's entire story, but through graphs. I'm a bit of a geek in that front, so I'll jump over to those, but hopefully you'll find them of interest. So let me just get the technology right and share my screen. Bear with me. All right, hopefully you can see my screen, and I'm going to just...
Yeah, we can.
Awesome. Okay, so there is the lovely Sophie outside her shop. Pre-COVID. So jumping straight in, I don't think anyone's going to be very surprised at this particular graph, but I think it really is worth just highlighting. High street footfall is as low as we expect during the lockdown. Those numbers, that drop off there is just unbelievable, really. I'm sure 6 months ago nobody thought that we'd be looking at graphs like this. However, it's kind of key to say that your audience hasn't suddenly vanished. They haven't disappeared. They've just changed location, and they're all online. Caroline talked about how much that has increased. I think the stats are in the region of a 40% increase in social activity from consumers over this period of time. And you would think, therefore, with all that move, that businesses would follow where their audience are. But in reality, that's not been the case. Maybe we monitor on a daily basis around 300,000 businesses in the UK, and we track how active businesses are on social media on a daily basis. And the starting point for this graph is actually pretty poor anyway, in the region of the fact that less than 50% of all businesses are actually active daily on social media in the first place is a pretty shocking stat. But as you can see, from when COVID has kicked in and lockdowns kicked in, the posting and the activity from businesses on social has also dropped off significantly. We've grouped this into kind of place data, so you can see the differences between Gloucester at the top there and Birmingham at the bottom, but everybody has followed a similar trend. They're all trending down in terms of their social activity. But your audience hasn't gone. Your audience is online, and you need to stay engaged with them. So looking at Sophie's story through graphs, I'm going to just walk through this slide piece by piece. It will basically underpin kind of what Sophie was saying. So the first thing we have is the news of COVID-19 becoming a real serious threat. We started to see reach of social, and this is looking specifically at Sophie's social activity and Sophie's social Facebook and Instagram and Twitter pages through the Maybe platform. So you can see here from early March that reach was starting to drop off significantly. On the 23rd of March, Sophie made the decision to switch off all of her email, ads, retargeting, everything at all. This graph here is tracking Sophie's ad spend on a daily basis, and as you can see, it flatlines there just after the 21st. What impact that has had, we can see here on the sales, but from around the same time, we've got again a similar flat line in terms of the sales decline when the social media activity stopped. But Sophie decided to take a slightly different approach. She started to organically engage with local positive content, and you can see that pink engagement there across from about March the 25th onwards. You can see that rise in the pink graph, which is organic engagement. It's showing that Sophie, by sharing local positive content, she was generating more positive and more engagement for her own social channels, which in itself is giving her more reach. She also launched the shoe competition you heard about there, and you can just see sitting behind that green graph there's again another high peak of pink, which shows the organic engagement that competition generated. Then on the 6th of April, chatting to Sophie, we've agreed that we were going to switch the ads back on and push out the new trainers that Sophie talked about. I think Sophie was basically worried that husbands at home might suddenly discover that their wives do spend £400 on a pair of boots, and so they actually would rather have a £50 pair of trainers come through the door. So on the 12th of April, we started pushing that range of trainers out through ads, specifically on Facebook and Instagram. And the results were pretty good. We were looking at monitoring what people were saying about Sophie via Maybe, and you can see here that everything kind of stayed pretty solid. There's a lot here around our Chelt, so Sophie was focusing very much on the local environment. Cheltenham bids mentioned there as well. Love, shoes, hope. These are all words that we used in posts and comments when people were talking about Sophie on social. So really good positive stuff there. And obviously Keith Scarrett was being kept front of mind. Sentiment is key. You need to know how your audience feel. And through maybe you can monitor the sentiment of your customers. And as you can see, pre-COVID, early March there, sentiment has always been pretty positive, pretty solid. But post the lockdown starting and Sophie beginning to engage with all that local content and sharing it, the positive sentiment for Keith Scarrett shoes as a social entity has really gone through the roof. And that positive sentiment has now remained throughout that period and beyond. But obviously, the key factor for Sophie was, well, am I actually still making any money? And the straightforward answer really is, on the final slide again up here, is that yes, the new trainers have absolutely flown out the door. And as you can see here, this is just a quick indicator of spike in sales post that time of putting the ads back on. So it's all about the timing and understanding your audience when they're ready to be re-advertised to. And this is just a great example of using data to actually determine, to back up what you think you should be doing, and just to sense check that you are doing the right thing before you do it. So despite obviously coronavirus, Sophie's business is thriving. You can see here, this is orders over time and sales over time. The purple line is showing you the growth in those orders from even from the lockdown period to now. So actually Sophie is really beginning to nail this and really get back out there to her audience. But let's have a look at some others out there. One other key case study I'd just like to highlight to you is Primark. Primark has gone from a £650 million a month business to zero. They have no online e-com. All their stores are closed. So you would think that would cause panic in the ranks, but actually, do you know what? It hasn't. They haven't missed a beat in terms of connecting with their audience on social. Let's just take a look at that. I mean, it's so difficult to even spot where COVID has kicked in with Primark. They've absolutely nailed it and maintained their social activity. So the top left graph is what is Primark saying. You can't even see the posts, that's in dark pink because the engagement is so high. They haven't at all dropped any time during the time frame. They've just kept posting and the engagement has stayed high. The top right graph shows what is being said about Primark. So this is not what Primark is saying, this is what other people are saying, other posts, comments. And again, you can see here that the engagement is massive on their content and they're talked about an awful lot, which is keeping them front in mind. And their sentiment as well has remained pretty positive throughout the period. And again, what's being said about them? Well, it's all about Primark. They keep their brand front and center throughout the whole period of time. And they've just absolutely got it right in terms of their communication strategy. They haven't dropped off. I've seen others where it's just a tumbleweed moment of content. There's nothing there and nothing to be seen. But Primark have almost done the opposite. So finally, with Maybe, just a quick plug, you can see all your social data at a glance, get the team on the same page, stay connected with your customers, and above all, it is actually generally free for businesses to use and organizations to use. So I would recommend signing up and having a go. And I hope that's been helpful.